Hi, I'm Dee, my pronouns are they, them, but also any pronoun? I wanted to talk today a little bit about my journey with pronouns because as of recently I've decided that I don't care what people use for me, and I want to talk about that because it has been a journey and it's something that is very close to my heart. It's something that my followers on Instagram have been there for me throughout. I've received a lot of hate in regards to my pronouns as well throughout my time, so I want to talk about my pronoun journey and kind of just give some advice. This is just going to be a nice chit-chatty video, not a lot of editing. Let's go. I guess we start at the beginning. Ever since I was a young individual, I have always questioned my gender identity, and I've spoken a lot about that on this YouTube channel, even though I only have a few videos, and I've spoken a lot about it on my TikTok and my Instagram. Growing up, I really didn't feel like a girl. I didn't feel like a boy, but I felt more like a boy than I did a girl. But I just didn't feel like I fit into any kind of space. And when I was a little bit older, I came across a Hollyoaks episode which showed a trans individual, which showed a girl transitioning to a boy and their experience and what they were kind of going through, the questions they were having. And that was the moment that I went, oh, that's kind of like how I'm feeling. Also, a side note, Hollyoaks, if you want to hit me up because of the amount of times I have spoken about this episode and given you free ad, hit me up because literally your show changed me as a young individual and helped me on my gender journey. So here if you want to chat about it. But after watching the Hollyoaks episode, I started to try out different pronouns. I tried out he, him pronouns. I even had my own trans masc name that I had in private, but it still just didn't feel like me. It didn't suit me. So I just kind of decided, okay, well, if I don't feel like a boy, I guess I'll just stick with what I am and I'll just deal with it. It wasn't until 2020 during lockdown that I really was allowed to explore myself and my identity, and a lot of resources were being put out on gender and identity and sex and pleasure because we were all indoors. So what else were we going to do but wank and question our gender identity? And then one day I stumbled across the term non-binary and it just felt like home. And ever since then, I have been non-binary. I've always been non-binary, but I finally had the label and language to describe how I felt. However, even though I had this new label and this new identity that I definitely resonated with, that was definitely me, I still didn't know what pronouns felt right, because at the time I was too afraid to drop she, her pronouns because I didn't feel non-binary enough. I didn't feel trans enough to solely go by they, them pronouns. So for a long time, I was a multiple pronoun user, which just means that I used multiple pronouns. At the time, I used she and they pronouns, and pronoun order does matter to a lot of trans individuals, so I will talk about that quickly. Pronoun order is basically when an individual will put the pronoun that they mostly like being called at the start of their pronoun set. Because that's the pronoun that you're going to see first, so it's the pronoun you most likely will be using the most. However, at the time, I put she before they because I didn't think anyone would actually use they for me, so I just put she first because I just felt I didn't feel ready yet to use they, them pronouns because of other people, and that's kind of a consistent thing throughout, which I'm now free of. And after a few months of having she, they in my bio and exploring they, them pronouns with my partner at the time, I realised that actually I prefer they over she, so I did a little swap, which may not sound like a big difference, but it actually is, because it meant that I wanted people to use they over she rather than she over they, and that was a huge step in my gender journey and identity, and it felt like a monumental moment for me. Then after a few more months, I actually decided she just didn't feel right anyway. Whenever somebody called me they or them, it just, it hit different. So I decided to drop she and solely go by they, them. I was also dabbling in he, him pronouns with partners in different kind of environments, and that felt really good, but I didn't know why that felt good, and I didn't know if I could adopt he, him pronouns if I didn't identify as transmasc. So I was having a lot of questions about what pronouns I felt comfortable using. And this happened over a 2-year span. So now we're in 2023, aka last year. And last year I went through my very trans masc stage. I was really exploring my masculinity, and I absolutely loved that stage of my gender journey. It's through this time that I started binding, I started wearing tape, I shaved my head. I was just really enjoying being a little masc boy. And it was also during this time that I decided that I wanted to try he pronouns as well. So I went by they, he. We're back with the multiple pronouns again. I guess they can't get rid of me. And side note, you don't have to look any sort of way to use whatever pronoun you want, but we'll talk about that again in a minute. The they, he pronoun didn't stick around for too long because I didn't feel comfortable enough using he pronouns, and not everybody was using he for me, so I just decided to go back to they, them, which felt like a safe space. Since then, I've been solely using they, them pronouns. Until recently, I was having a conversation with somebody I'm seeing, and when I was talking about pronouns and language and identity, I realised that I actually don't mind what people refer to me as, because my internal sense of self is so secure that I know who I am. I know I'm non-binary, and regardless of whether you use they, he or she, I'm still me. I am just D. I really enjoy being so fluid in myself. I really enjoy my fluidity and my androgyny, but also my masculinity and my femininity. I love it all. I'm a non-binary person who is gender full and also genderless, not only genderless. After a few nights of having these thoughts, thinking, I like he pronouns, I don't mind she pronouns, I like they, them, regardless of how people perceive me, I'm still D, I'm still non-binary, I'm still trans, and people are still going to perceive me how they want to perceive me. So why don't I just go by all pronouns? And then we have returned to multiple pronouns again. And that is currently where I am at the moment. I am D. That's who I am. That's how I identify. I am just me, and that is fluid, and that looks different day to day. And regardless of what people use for me, regardless of the language they direct towards me, I'm still me. Somebody who comments on my TikTok, she, her, okay, I guess you're right. If you are exploring your pronouns, please know that you can use whatever pronouns you want to, and that your journey may change. You may change pronouns throughout your entire life, and that is okay. Use whatever pronouns feel good to you. If you want to change it up, if you want to trial pronouns, if you want to use neo-pronouns, go for it. And of course, that is a journey that has taken 3 or 4 years to get to, and not everybody will feel the same as me, but I feel so free in kind of being able to take away that power from other people, because I know who I am, regardless of how they choose to identify me or describe me. I'm D, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters.